It's a trillion-dollar enterprise that could permanently alter the energy landscape of the Americas. The oil sands of Alberta. But can development occur responsibly, or could the risks and environmental opposition derail it?
Man-made things do fail, and this pipeline will leak.
With the world's largest crude reserves next to Venezuela and Saudi Arabia at stake.
Are you going to stick it out?
It's a fundamental need for Canadians to get full value for its resources.
We'll spend the next 30 minutes examining both sides of the contentious debate that has Canada's oil sands at a crossroads. Out here on the open water, Gerald Amos draws a memory from every cove, every inlet.
This is a really good crabbing area right up in the headwaters here, the head of the inlet.
Amos is a member of the Haisla First Nation. The Haislas have lived off seafood caught along the coast of British Columbia, Canada for generations, and they've largely been left alone.
We are at the end of the road if you're looking at it from a blacktop point of view. And for the longest time, we preferred to keep it that way.
But increasingly, Amos finds himself witnessing the rollback of the wild. More and more industries are setting up shop across the bay in Kitimat, a small coastal town here in British Columbia.
Fortunately or unfortunately, people now know what we have here, that, it's actually the beginning of the road.
It's a road that Canada is counting on to lead to North American energy independence, domestic need met by domestic supply, and it's only possible thanks to the massive energy resources found in the province next door. These are Canada's oil sands, located in the province of Alberta. An estimated 168 billion barrels of oil lodged between tiny grains of sand. The oil sands are the world's third largest proven source of oil, and the world is invested in bringing this oil to market.
Much of the oil sands development you see here in Alberta is thanks to Asian investment. Fully 1/3 of foreign direct investment in the oil sands comes from China.
Chinese investment and foreign investment in general is very important to the development of the oil sands, so we do need that foreign investment. We can't fund all that capital just in Canada alone.
Ryan Kubik is the Chief Financial Officer for Canadian Oil Sands, which has the majority stake in the Syncrude mine. Chinese oil giants CNOOC and Sinopec have invested more than 16% in Syncrude's 2 mining operations. There are no days off here. Gigantic trucks haul hundreds of tons of oil sand around the clock, which must be crushed, mixed with warm water, and sent to a plant where a tarry substance known as bitumen is extracted. Before it can become oil, it has to be upgraded, then refined.
Just to give you an idea how large the trucks are here at the Syncrude mine that are taking the oil sands away, this is one of the tires for the largest vehicle here. It can carry 400 tons a load. That's 200 barrels of oil.
The majority of the oil sands, though, are too deep underground to be mined by shovel, and instead must be extracted from the sands with steam under heavy pressure.
So from these 9 well pairs on this well pad, we're producing approximately 21,000 barrels of oil per day.
Oil from Cenovus and many other oil sands producers must be refined at refineries equipped to handle this very heavy oil. Canada hasn't built any new refineries since the 1980s because of high costs and politics.
As a country, Canada is leaving tens of billions of dollars in revenue on the table every year because we're selling our oil at discounted prices because we don't have enough pipeline capacity over the longer term to get it to market.
Getting to that global market requires infrastructure Canada doesn't have yet. It not only needs more refineries, but more pipelines. Pipelines from the oil sands to eastern Canada's existing refineries, and pipelines to the heavy oil refineries in the United States. A broad network of pipelines have been proposed throughout North America to solve this problem. Most bring the heavy oil or bitumen to refineries in the United States Midwest and Gulf Coast. Canadian Natural Resources Minister Joe Oliver has made repeated visits to Washington, D.C. to discuss the oil sands.
In 2020, even as it's expected to become the world's largest oil producer, the IEA projects that the U.S. will still need to import 5.5 million barrels of oil per day in order to meet its energy demand.
But environmentalists on both sides of the border worry about the energy and water-intensive processes used to extract oil from the oil sands.
Unfortunately, the tar sands, when you look at it over the life cycle, is more polluting and more toxic than conventional oil.
By some estimates, the added difficulty generates around 12% more greenhouse gases per barrel of oil than from conventional oil production, a claim the industry disputes.
We know that all of the easy-to-get light oil in the world is running out, so as we move towards the future of oil production, we are moving to those kinds of oils that are more difficult to extract.
Minister Oliver is quick to point out Canada is still on track to meet its emissions reduction goals.
The oil sands accounted for less than 8% of Canada's total emissions in 2011.
Then there's what to do with the more than 170 square kilometers of wastewater ponds from the oil sand extraction. Environmentalists say these ponds contain chemicals so toxic they have poisoned wildlife.
We're seeing this very explosive growth of oil sands development and very little progress in terms of actually restoring the land to something that would be considered to be equivalent to what was there before.
Only Syncrude has successfully returned a mine to nature, and it took 30 years from start to finish.
It was a decades-long process to mine it out, and it is a decades-long process to put it back.
For conservationists, that's significant. The boreal forest, which lies above the oil sands deposits and is impacted by their development, is a critical component of the continental ecosystem.
And this forest has often been referred to as the lungs of North America. And the reason that is because it actually stores 11% of the world's carbon.
Opposition to the further development of the oil sands has taken up residence in hearing halls and boardrooms across the continent, creating a vigorous debate over whether those proposed pipelines should ever be laid in the ground.
All of the pipeline projects and more would need to be approved for the industry to expand to the degree they want to.
When we come back, we'll take you to the U.S. state of Nebraska, which has become ground zero in a continental battle over whether to build the Keystone XL pipeline.